In this video, I want to walk you through the steps of building a custom color profile, showing you the X-Rite i1 profiler and the equipment that goes with it, plus giving you a little bit more information about working with the software. So it comes in this cool case. I've actually partially opened it up. Normally it'll be all zipped up and protected. We don't need everything in this case, so I want to open it up and show you what we do need and talk about some of the things you want to be careful with as you get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to take out is this easel. And there's two parts to the easel, and that is this area, this part, and the larger part. And this is where we're going to put our target paper in order to register it. I'm just going to set that aside for a second so I can get out the other two parts and set this case aside. We go to this side, and we don't need everything here. We need a cord, and we need these two items. These are for other kinds of profiling and very handy, but not for this process. So we need this, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a second, and we need this. And then we can just set this aside. Okay, so once we have everything out, let me walk you through the steps. Now this is the expensive part. This is actually the sensitometer, the color sensitometer that actually, so this is the expensive part. This is the colorimeter that measures the color. Very nice piece of equipment. This is actually also an important part. It rests on this. When you take it out, this is important. It should be like this, and you're going to move it like this. And before you put it away again, you're going to put it back. That might look like just an ordinary little white dot, but that actually is a very important calibration tool that we need to protect. So we do that, just set that in there for now. And this is important. You want to actually plug this into your computer before you get started. If you plug it in after or before you open up so this is important. You want to plug in your sensitometer or your colorimeter before you open up your software. Otherwise, the software can't recognize it. So it plugs right into your computer. It doesn't have to be plugged into the wall, but your computer obviously should be charged up. It's a regular USB. So since I have a MacBook Pro, I need to use a USB-C adapter, and you'll need to do that if you have one of those. Just plugs right into the computer. Now, nothing happens with it yet, but wait until we actually open up our software. So the software I've loaded ahead of time. It's free. You need to download it, have it on your computer ready. And I have it on the desktop. It's called iProfiler. And when it launches, you can see the little light, it goes home, home. I know that everything is, my software is opening up. There's a number of different things that you can do with this iProfiler and this software. We are going to do printer profiling. So I'm just going to click on that, and it immediately gives us this target sheet. And this looks just like these. And that's because I've already printed these. I printed them a few days ago and let them dry for a while, which is what you want to do. But let me show you a little bit about the printing process. When you do this, you're not going to set a profile because we are creating one. You're going to pick your printer here. Right now this says Epson Photo 2880 because that's the only printer that is hooked up to this computer. But I'm actually making a profile for a different printer. That's okay. I don't need to worry about that because my target paper is already set up. I printed it on paper size letter paper. You can print it on any size and it depends on what you're doing, but normally we're going to print on 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to go ahead and use a medium test chart. I'm going to not do small or large. Medium gives me 2 pages, and it gives me a pretty good profile. If you needed to do a really fast profile for some reason, you could do the small. If you wanted a really, really precise one, you would go to the large. Okay, so once I have that, I've already printed, but I would pull this up. It's going to give me the printer, but notice it's not giving me any option to enter in a custom profile or a CAN profile of any kind, you would just go in and pick the correct type of paper, the paper surface, which would be matte or glossy, depending on what you're profiling. I'm going to cancel that since I've already printed these, and I'm going to go ahead and click the forward button. Now, as soon as we get to the forward button, it will always ask you to do this. It will ask you to calibrate your device, your colorimeter or your spectrophotometer, and very easy to do. You're just going to make sure it's set up exactly as we have with the white dot pulled back, and you're going to go ahead and hit the button that says calibrate. Doesn't take very long at all. It's just communicating with it, making sure everything's cool, and there we go. Okay, and now it's saying that it really wants to play with the test patches. So let me get started on that. I'm just going to pull this back for a second. Lots going on here. So here's our easel, and it's a very simple device, but very, very precise. You can't use a regular easel for this. It actually has, at the top, it has a little clip. Make sure that you want, there's 2 pages to this one. And what we're doing is we're measuring how this actually printed. This is a Hahnemühle bamboo paper that I'm measuring, and I'm measuring it for the 4900 at the school. So I have 2 of these. So I have page 1 of 2 and page 2 of 2. You want to make sure go in order. Notice that it also has numbers down here, and those are the row numbers, which will really help you so you don't lose track, and you'll see what I mean. So we just put it into the clipboard. There's a nice little clip up at the top. And then we take our little doohickey, very technical term. And you notice this goes at the bottom. This is what will hold the colorimeter. And this goes up to the first row. And we're just going to work our way down. And as soon as we are ready with that, this is going to go into... Make sure this will go into here, and I'm going to start it on this side, pull it a little bit this way. I think you can still see that. It sets right in there, and we're going to go both ways. So I just want to have it, bring it there, make sure you're comfortable. This is really important that when you set this up. It can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes to actually do the next part, and so you want to be comfortable and make sure you're ready, because you really want to do it all at once if you can. So I'm ready, and it's already said to me I'm measuring row 1 on page 1. It's on that same page. So I'm going to set it here. Now this is important. This is what takes the most practice in this process, is you want to have this on one or the other end. You can start on either end. It's okay. But you need to make sure that you're all the way over and on the white space that's on the edge of the paper and not over any of the colors. Make sure it's blinking white. Make sure it's seated properly here. You're going to click and the light goes off, and you're going to hold this and smoothly and relatively slowly move it across. And it turns blue because I'm actually doing a double scan to make sure I got the first one right. And so it says forward scan complete, and now I'm going to do it again exactly the same way. Click it and move it across, and if I've done it right, it turns green. Now I'm going to do a few rows, and hopefully at some point I'll go too fast or something so you can see what happens if it argues with you. One thing that's great about this is it's saying measuring row 2, and so you know you need to go to row 2. It's not going to let you lose track. And I'll do the process again, and it liked me again. So this is, you need to be slow and steady and smooth. Let's see if I can go a little faster on this and mess it up. Yes, it said the scan was started before the light was on, and so it didn't like it. Don't worry, I haven't broken anything, but there's a couple things you need to remember. You want to go, I'm ready, I click, I wait a second, then I smoothly go across, and then I let go. And now it liked it. So that's the way we need to do it. Same thing, remember it needs to be on the white. I click, I hold it for a second, I move slowly and steadily across, and I let go. And it's like, ooh, you're so good. I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're going to do a little cooking show magic. I'm going to finish this up on my own, because I don't think you really want to watch me do all 20 minutes of this. So I'm going to click across blue, click, and across. It's kind of nice and meditative when you get going. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off now and finish this up. And when I come back, I'll show you the last few rows, and then I'll show you what to do in your screen to get moving. Okay, I'm back, and I'm on the last 3 rows of the of my last scan. It says that I should be measuring row 26. Now I want to show you something that I haven't shown you before, another error. I'm going to stay on row 25, and I'm going to go ahead and try this measurement. And I go across, and it says that is not the right row. It says please check which row you're on and go to row 26. And so I'm going to go down to 26, which is where it wanted me to be. And it says, I like you again. So you can see that there are lots of wonderful little checks and balances. As long as you're sort of paying attention, you can't really screw this up. Okay. And I've got one last row. Let's see what happens when I get there. Whew. Ta-da! And it says, I'm done. Okay, so the next step, I'll just set this aside, is to go ahead and do the software. I'm going to go next and hit next. And it's going to ask me a few questions. Don't overly worry about these. It says standard luminance 050, and that's going to be just fine. Unless you're doing this for some kind of very special location, you don't need to worry about changing the luminance. And then we're going to go here. Now this is important. This is where you're going to save it. Be sure you leave. Oh, I always have to be careful. You want to be sure that you leave the ICC profile on. And this is going to be BAM, Boo, and I'm going to call it 4900 and Epson, because that is what it's for, just so that I can keep track of it. And where you really want to put it is actually into your library or your ColorSync file. I'm just going to go ahead and Google ColorSync. Now, if you don't have a Mac, it'll be slightly different, and you need to check your PC for where you might need to put this. It has to be put in a particular file. So there's my ColorSync and my profiles, and I'm going to put it right in there. And that means that when I go to print on this computer and I want to print from that printer, that file is going to show up and I can select it as my profile. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just click the button and say Save Profile. It doesn't take very long. Just a couple of minutes. It's going to work. It's magic. It's measuring, calculating, doing all of those cool little charty computery things. Woohoo! And we just say OK, and we have a brand new profile. And you can see that this looks somewhat similar to the profiles that we've been looking at in class and in certain videos. So this is a very small profile. This is a beautiful paper, but because it's a matte surface paper, it has a limited color gamut. But this profile will allow your computer to interpret the colors as closely as possible. That is it. It's in your profiles, it's saved, and it's ready to use.